All right. Updating the Portainer ProveIt infrastructure from a level 2 infrastructure to level 3, take 0. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to take my Portainer instance for ProveIt, where we manage all of our infrastructure, and I am going to update it to use all the edge capabilities in Portainer, which is what makes Portainer really an Industry 4 ready platform. All right, so what I've got right now is I have 5 of our ProveIt servers running. I got 5 of our ProveIt servers running Portainer standalone, the standalone agent. So MySQL, HiveMQ, 1 and 2, Death Star, and Hoth. So if I go to my Portainer instance, if I go to home, and I have my 5 servers, okay? What I'm going to do is to show what it looks like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, in my Ignition server, which we have here, I'm going to go ahead and add Ignition as a standalone server. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little script here, and we're going to remote into my Ignition server, which is running Docker. And all I'm going to do is just run this command, Docker run. Okay, if I'm already if I'm logged in as root and I have admin permissions, it'll go ahead and install the Portainer agent. So it's found the image, it's installed it, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit, and I am going to grab my IP address for my Ignition server, and I'm going to go back to Portainer, and I'm going to go to my environments, and I'm going to add a new environment. I'm going to add it as Docker standalone, okay? And what I'm going to do is give it the name Ignition. And then I am going to put the IP address in and port 9001. And when I click connect, what it did was it added Ignition as a standalone managed Portainer server. So if I go to Ignition, I have one container running, and it's the Portainer agent, okay? What I'm going to do is, if I wanted to add another container there, I could, all right? But the problem here is that if I look at, say, Death Star, which has this fancy stack running on it, okay, I've got my ProveIt stack running. So if I look at Death Star has all these really cool tools running on it, like Glances, which allows me to see the health of the server, okay? It has Dazzle, which allows me to see all the containers that I have running on the server. Container Advisor. Oop, didn't mean to do that. Container Advisor, which allows me to see the health of all the containers I have running on the server. If I want this same stack that's running on Death Star, which is this server right here, and I've just added Ignition to Portainer, the way with the current architecture, because I'm not using any of the edge features, I would have to go to my stacks. I would have to go to the ProveIt stack. I'd have to go to my editor. I'd have to pull out the YAML file, the compose file, and I'd have to create that stack for my other server. And the reason why is because I am using a architecture that doesn't use any of the edge capabilities of Portainer. There's 2 different types of agents. You have your standalone agent, you have your edge agent. And so what I'm going to do is in this lesson, I'm going to disconnect all of these servers from Portainer standalone, and I'm going to add the edge agent code. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start by, I'm going to remove all these servers except for Death Star. I'm going to leave Death Star the way it is, because Death Star is the one that we're using to administer, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is we are going to remove the Portainer agent from all of our existing servers. So I'm going to start with ProveIt Ignition, the one that we just added the agent to. and I'm going to go ahead and just remove the agent. Okay. And if I go back here and go back to home, and I try to go into Ignition, I'm not going to be able to connect to it. Okay. All right. So we'll get out of Ignition. We'll go ahead and go to our HiveMQ1. I'm going to remove the agent here. We'll go to HiveMQ2. Obviously, I can go and do all of this in Portainer, which I am choosing not to do for a reason. So now what I've done is I've removed Portainer from all those servers. So now all I'm going to do is just go and there we go. It failed to load the environment. All right. So I'm going to go to environment related, go to my environments, and I'm going to grab all the ones that I removed. Ignition. Did I remove Hoth? I didn't, did I? All right. And I'm going to remove it from Hoth. I'm just going to remove all these agents. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove them. All right. So now when I go back, all I have is just my standalone Death Star. Okay. And Death Star has its stack running on it. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to enable, well, normally we would need to enable Edge Compute. I have it enabled, so I don't need to enable it. All right. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to environments. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create auto onboarding. All right. So in the auto onboarding, I'm not going to let's go ProveIt 2026 and none. All right. So we're going to use this, and what we're going to do is go back to our, we'll do ProveIt HiveMQ1 first. All right. So now what we've done is we're using Edge Agent Standard, not async. Okay. And that's number one. HiveMQ2. MySQL. And Ignition. All right, so now what I've done is I've done my auto onboarding script for all of my servers. So now that we have provisioned the servers, okay, so Death Star, ProveIt HiveMQ1, HiveMQ2, Hoth, MySQL, Ignition, and our data center server. And one note, I have changed the Portainer Edge ID to hostname. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into Edge Compute. We're going to go into the waiting room. And now what I have are 6 servers waiting to be associated. Okay. So I am going to select them and associate them. Couple of points. The onboarding script includes the tag ProveIt 2026. And so we have our Edge group, which is ProveIt servers, and everything we're going to do is for ProveIt servers. This is set up to be a dynamic group, so that what it does is any server that has the tag ProveIt 2026 will automatically be added to this group. Okay, so in the waiting room, they all have this tag. So I'm just going to go ahead and associate all the devices. Okay, and now what we have are all of our servers. Okay, so now all of our servers we're able to manage all of them. Okay, we're able to manage all the servers. So the next step is we're going to do two things. We're going to add an edge stack, because right now if I go to any of these servers like ProveIt Q1, the only thing that's running on there is the edge agent. Okay, there's a couple of things though I want to point out real quick. If we go to environments, we go to IBM Q1. One of the things that's not configured is our public IP. Okay, I'm not going to do anything with that, but normally I would come in and associate the public IP. I'm going to do that for just one of the servers, which is ProveIt IBM. Okay, and because this is the one that we're going to use to test our ports, so I'm just going to I'm going to associate the public ID and update the environment. So now if I click in any of our containers, I click on any of the published ports, it's going to automatically go to public IP : port. All right. Otherwise, if I click on that port, it doesn't link. It'll just go blank : port. All right. So now what I've got is we have all of our edge agents. And so what I want to do now is I want to create an edge stack. So we're going to create a brand new stack. Okay. That stack is going to be called, we'll call it, let's do ProveIt Supervision. Okay. And it's going to go into the ProveIt servers group. So any server that's a member of that group is going to get this stack. All right. We're going to use the web editor, and we're going to do two things. We're going to start with this code here. All right. So we're going to install Glances, Dazzle, Uptime Kuma, Container Advisor. Okay. And we don't need to, well, these are all high speed. So we will deploy the stack. All right. And what it's doing now is it's going through each of the servers and it's updating them. Okay. So we'll see the status on a heartbeat. And on each heartbeat, we'll see how many of them are done. And now what I've done is I've taken this stack so that I can monitor, and we're good. They're all running. So if I go to my environments and I go to ProveIt IBM Q1, home, ProveIt IBM Q1, I have 5 containers running on there. And if I want to see, say, Container Advisor, it's there. It's on all the servers. It's all been deployed. All right, so now we've got that running on all of our environments. So now if we go back to our ProveIt infrastructure, so now if we go to our ProveIt infrastructure, we have Portainer now running here and running here. And then we have also deployed a stack. But what I want to do is I want to update the stack. So we're going to go to Edge Stacks. We're going to go back to ProveIt Supervision. And what I want to do is I want to add 2 additional items. So we're going to add Who Am I? And we're going to add File Browser to our stack. All right. So now I've added 2 additional And we're going to go ahead and update the stack. And so now what's going to happen is all the servers are going to be updated with our updated stack. So what's happening right now is initially all of the environments are acknowledging, then they're going to deploy, and then we'll see which ones failed, and then we'll go ahead and test HiveMQ1 again, and then we're going to create our job. And this is actually how we're using it. This is permanent. We are using this for the ProveIt infrastructure. So people who are going to attend to ProveIt will be able to monitor the environment. All right. If I go home, we're still waiting for a couple to reply, but if I go to HiveMQ1, we now have 7 containers running. We have, we didn't open the port, but we do have Who Am I? So if I open Who Am I, it gives me the status of our environment. Okay. If I go to, the port hasn't been forwarded for file browser, but everything else is there. All right. And that is deployed across our entire infrastructure now. So every one of these servers has the same environment. If I go to, we'll go to HiveMQ2. The only difference is if I click on any of these, it doesn't go to the, if I click on Dazzle, what it's going to do is give me the blank. I go to HiveMQ2, grab HiveMQ's IP address, and we've got Dazzle running. All right, last thing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create an edge job. Okay? So we've verified our updated stack. And so what we want to do here is we're going to do Docker cleanup and log rotation. All right, so we're going to add a job. And we're going to call it Docker cleanup. And edge rotation, we're going to use web editor. We are going to put it in our ProveIt servers. And we are going to run this once a day. Okay? And what we're going to do is grab this. And so what's going to happen is on each of these servers, essentially what's going to happen is there's going to be a cron job that runs once per day that runs this script. Okay? All right, I'm going to add the edge job. The job is created, and it is now available on each of the environments. And so what will happen is once per day on all, looks like 7 of these servers, that cron job will run. And what that's going to do is it's going to remove any stopped containers. It'll remove any unused images. It's going to remove any unused volumes. It's going to remove any unused networks. Okay. And then it's going to truncate any container logs that are larger than 100 megabytes. And I'll say this, when it comes to scale, this is a major issue. The number one reason you'll have an issue with a container running on an environment is because when you originally provisioned it, you didn't do anything with the log files. And the logs will just continue to run it. It will just get massive until you run out of disk space. It's probably the simplest provision that a lot of people just don't remember to cover. Okay? And that's it. That's what we've got. So now what we've done is we have changed from standalone management where I would have to manage all these stacks and jobs independently to now they are being managed through an edge group called ProveIt servers. And ProveIt servers is populated by any server that is a ProveIt 2020 set that uses the ProveIt 2026 tag. So when I auto onboard, all I got to do is make sure that that server has the ProveIt 2026 tag. It gets put into the ProveIt servers 2026 group, the ProveIt servers group, and then it'll get the stacks, the jobs, and the configurations that I want.